Good grief. I'll tell you what, this is what I get for messing around with two channels. I'll tell you what's the truth. All right, guys, if you're still out there and you're still listening, Johnny Two Bears and Happy Harris is scheduled to be on with us tonight. I've sent him an email. Something goofy went, and I ended the stream. And when I did, it canceled the live event, so I had to create another one. That's my fault, and I apologize. I'm trying to give these guys some time to figure it out and to come on the new link. Anyways, before all that happens, I wanted to get some things out of the way. Anyways, yeah, I'm with you there, Skipper D. Hey, I'm glad you're here, brother. Let me say good evening to the ones that's already here. BFFG Research. There's my buddy Richard. Travis T. I haven't seen you in a while, bud. I'm glad to see you back. Joanne Glass. Always good to see you, girl. You know that. B. Jammin and Jeremiah Sutton. You're another one I don't know of or I haven't seen in here. I'm glad you made it. Yeah, it can be a pain in the butt. Trust me. And old Bear, yeah, he was just on here, and about the time I clicked on him, he got off. Oh, Flat Rock, glad to see you, Flat Rock. All right. Anyways, that's everybody that I see on here right now, guys. I wanted to do this real quick. Like I'm hoping these guys figure it out here in a minute. If you haven't got these yet, need to check these out. You need to go see our friend. Let's see. Let me go over here and find him. I hope these guys don't take too long. Okay, there he is. All right, there you go. This is your night lights, guys. These are cool. I love these things, and I got them from Bobby White. You see his email down there at gotlube@hotmail.com. You contact Bobby. He'll take care of you. They're cool lights, man. I'm gonna tell you what, I don't think you'll regret getting those things. So he's on over there and check old Bobby out. There's this other one that I got, and you can tell. Let me hold that thing straight. And there's Patty, man. When it lights up, it lights really good. It's all shaded in. Cool stuff, man. Cool stuff. All right, guys, before we go on, I was going to do this anyway. So, anyways, all right. If you got any stories or you want to come on the show and talk to us and tell us your stories, or we can tell the stories for you. Either one. You don't necessarily have to come on the show, but if you do have something like that, contact Mr. Waylon Colburn at colburnwaylon@yahoo.com. Contact us with your stories, guys. We'd love to hear them or read them out for you. Whatever you want to do, we don't care. We just want the stories. All right, Ed, I want you to do this for me. Bigfoot Forest Giants. Follow BFFG on YouTube. They're good friends of ours. They're good people. We love them to death, especially if you're into nature hikes and Bigfoot hunting, that kind of stuff. Go check them out. There are a bunch of good guys over there. And this one, Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show. Guys, we need all the subscribers we can get over there. She's a good girl. I like her. I love to watch her show. I hate it when she's on when I'm on. But go over and check her out. Not So Perfect Big Show with Miss V. She's great. Love her to death. I really do. And Sasquatch Encounter Brigade. Those are my guys that's supposed to be on here tonight. They should be on here shortly. I got a couple others that have fell in. We'll get back to them here in just a minute. And let's see here. That's going to be Johnny Two Bears and Happy Harris if we can get them to come back on. I'm hoping so. And what other one? Old Bears Den of Bigfoot. Follow on YouTube. Man, good stories. Great guy. Love him to death. I'm going to go ahead and bring on these other two guys on here in just a minute. I'm going to give Johnny just a little bit longer to see if he comes on. Jeremiah, I'll shoot you, brother. I mean that jokingly. Nobody get upset. I ain't even going to read that comment, Jeremiah. Roll Tide. All right, let's get these other two guys on here. Waylon, you see what I get into? Yeah. Can you say anything? Let me know. There. Okay, there you are. Let me grab old Bobby on here. Bobby look at him like
I'm here.
Bobby looks like a deer with headlights on. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. All right. There he is. All
Still
right,
working?
we just need one more. Matt, guys, I do apologize. This is all my fault. I should have checked this out before I come on the show. I run 2 channels, and one of them's a Bigfoot channel, and I mean a football channel.
Well, you know the link you sent says "Let's talk football."
Yeah. Send it to Happy for me if you don't mind. I had to
Okay.
hurry up because I didn't want to sit there and go. This is all about Sasquatch Encounter Brigade, guys. So send the link to Happy and we'll get started.
Well, I'll
There
have
we
to get
go.
off to do that.
All right, we'll wait on you. Oh, Lordy mercy. Well, we can sit here and talk football if y'all want to. We done got the Georgia fans off.
Show them show my handprint. Show my handprints, Icebox.
Oh, let's see if it's still on here, brother. I don't know if I took it off yet or not. I did. I already took it off.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no, I still got the pictures. I just ain't got them up here where I can use them. There's Happy. He don't look too happy, but there he is.
I'm concentrating.
Oh, yeah.
Man. All right, guys. There we go. We got it all figured out now. All right. Like I said, it does say let's talk football. I had to hurry up because I didn't want to lose you guys. When I hit the end of the stream, it wiped everything out. So I had to go back, hurry up, and reset everything and send the link back out. So, guys, I'm sorry about that. But, guys, if you don't know, Mr. Jonny Two Bears is down there to your bottom right-hand corner, and Mr. Happy Harris is down there on the left-hand side. Welcome to the show. We finally got one going. This one is going to be the story I am not going to repeat. I'm going to tell you that right now.
It's all good, man. We have problems with it too, you know.
Seriously, guys, this was my fault. I should have checked. Like I said, I run 2 channels, and I had to wipe out my intros and stuff like that to get these other 2 guys' intros. And when I come on, I didn't check, and not like I normally do because I was in kind of a hurry. I've been on the phone for probably better 2 or 3 hours getting the camera to start working. Got frustrated, but I ended up figuring it out myself that technical support couldn't figure out. Which was a mess in itself, if that tells you anything about technical support. But anyways, let's start off with Mr. Happy. Mr. Happy, would you like to tell us how you met up with Jonny and tell your stories?
I met Jonny through a mutual friend, Captain Joe Cayley. I'm originally from Augusta, and that's where I had my experience almost 30 years ago. And Joe had something happen to him as well outside of Augusta that just defied all logic. And when he and I got hooked up and started talking, and that's how we ended up with Jonny. And that's been 3 or 4 years ago now, hasn't it, Jonny?
Yeah, time flies, man.
It really does, especially when you're having a good time or squatching.
Yeah. Hey, it's been a very eventful couple of years, you know, way more than I ever thought, to be honest with you.
Well, me too. Absolutely. I mean, you know, you proved to me that I wasn't crazy. That's for sure. So, well, I guess we can start again with my story. And this all happened outside of Augusta, about 30 miles outside of Augusta. I was probably 1991, 92. I was 22 years old, 21, 22, going to college. And at that time, I was just consumed with deer hunting. And I was chasing a big deer. And it was October, late October, probably early November. It hadn't been Thanksgiving. It had been cold enough that the leaves were turning, but it wasn't freezing because I remember I just had on light camouflage while I was hunting. But I did this day everything completely different than we normally did. It was a weekday. I was by myself. I came down in the afternoon. I parked. I was walking down a gas line headed to a swamp where we'd seen, like I said, I've been chasing this big deer where I'd seen this deer, and I was going to try and sneak up on him and catch him. And as I'm walking down the power lines, the gas line, I look over, and against the pine tree, it looks like there's this perfect blind that's been built. I was like, well, this looks like a good enough place as any to sit down and see if I could shoot a deer. So I ended up sitting for about 30, 45 minutes, I guess. And from behind me, I hear I don't have it pulled up again, but basically it was samurai chatter. Like that, to the point where I locked up. I mean, my fingers grip my rifle. Like I said, I go in there and look, and you can still see little imprints of half moons in my fingernails where I grabbed onto the stock of my rifle so hard when this happened. And I don't know, like 30, 40 minutes later, I'm back at my truck. And I don't know how I got there. I have no idea.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, Happy. Right off the bat. That noise that it made, that they call it samurai chatter or something like that.
Yeah.
Was it? You said it was from behind that bush?
Well, it was behind the tree.
Behind the tree.
Mm-hmm. Behind the tree I was leaning against.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he could just reach around and grab you.
Yeah, I reckon.
I will tell you what.
He didn't.
That noise you just made, I've heard that before. I have.
Me too. And
yeah, it's not a comfortable feeling.
No, sir. That is the most frightening. Like I said, I locked up so hard that my neck and back was sore for 2 or 3 days afterwards. Every muscle in my body clenched, and I wet myself, man. I pissed my britches.
I know that close, right behind the tree.
Yeah, and I mean, I at that point I had no idea what that was. I was the baddest man in the woods, as I was saying. Sitting there with a rifle, and a pistol on my belt, and a knife, and what anybody gonna mess with me? Well, I was wrong. I was really wrong there, and I collected myself as best as I could, took my butt home, and I didn't go back down there until I went back down there with Jonny. It's completely changed from the last time I went down there till now. It's completely changed from the first time that Jonny and I went down there until now. But I distanced myself from my buddies that I hunted with. I stopped hunting. I stopped hunting, and it was. I missed. I mean, I there for a while I just put it out of my mind, and then, like I say, about 7 years ago, when all of the Sasquatch podcasts started coming out and the like, I was listening to it, and I heard Ron Moorhead's samurai chatter about crashed my damn car. When I heard the samurai chatter, and at that point, I realized something obviously had happened to me that was concerning Sasquatch, or whatever you want to call it, a skunk ape in Georgia. But I don't know what else could have done that. So, like I said, I just didn't say anything to anybody for a long time. I said a couple of things I laughed at, as we all probably have been, and so I just moved along and put it away until, like I said, I heard that, and that's how I ended up talking with Captain Joe. And through Captain Joe, I met Jonny, and I'd gone and told my story to Shane Grove on From the Shadows, and Jonny's I think the third person that I ever told my story to, sit down from start to finish, and is also the third person that never laughed at me about it either. But so.
Well, I knew what you were dealing with.
Well, and it's crazy how it came back, after hearing it and all of that, and just repressing it for so long. But I miss being out in the woods. That's where I spent loads and loads of time growing up. I spent more time in the woods than I did. Whenever I could go, I went. Fishing, hunting, it didn't matter. You want to go to the country? Yes, I do. So it took a part, like I said, it changed my life. It took a part of that away from me for a while, for a good while. I mean, the majority of my adult life so far. And I'm 56 years old now. And I was 22 when that happened. And I started hunting seriously, not on the east side of the state, but on the west side of the state about 2 years ago. And it's still, a couple of those mornings, it gets to get the heebie-jeebies walking in there to the state when it's dark.
Hey, but at least you got back out there.
But, I got a bigger pistol now. So, so somebody's going to know I'm there is all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but you got to admit, though, hunting this or doing this is more fun and, to me, more exciting than I ever did go hunting.
Well, absolutely. And, there's also the fact that he's probably hunting you more than you're hunting him, is the thing.
That's kind of what makes it fun.
We're not sneaking up on him by any stretch of the imagination, are we, Johnny?
No.
Okay. Well, before we get to the other part of the story, Johnny, tell me about it, babe.
Well, about 2017-ish, 2018 is when I started getting into the topic. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over all the stuff on my property, but that's how I got involved in this. I went from not knowing the first thing about these creatures at all, not caring anything about them, to between like 2018 to 2020, having had tons of experiences, anywhere from being growled at, rocks thrown at me. I watched sticks being thrown at my neighbors. My neighbors were basically harassed for about 6 months, was how all this started, really. And, I would respond, go over there, and I thought for the longest time I was chasing kids. And then it started getting creepy. It started getting, they were doing things that normal humans don't do, or that children don't do. And they were really good at doing it and getting away with it. So eventually, just by running out of options, I started looking into Sasquatch. And then I will tell one story. The first time that I knew that, all right, this is what I'm dealing with. I had kind of committed myself to start looking for these things because I was out of options. I found tracks, structures. I've had them walking out behind the house at night. But I hadn't seen one. And I'd started doing these armed patrols at night, mainly just if it was human, it was just a presence patrol. I had a flashlight. I was loud. Sometimes I'd take an AK-47. Sometimes it'd be a shotgun. I mean, I would get all decked out and look as mean as I could, because I wanted whatever was going on to stop. That's what I wanted. I wanted it to stop, and I want to figure out what it was. So eventually, and I honestly don't remember whether it was a week or 2 weeks of doing these nightly armed patrols, and I knew a little bit about structures. So if I'd see something that kind of looked like a structure, I'd tear it apart or I'd kick it or do, I was just being a nuisance. I didn't know which way to go, but I was gonna get somebody in front of me, whoever or whatever it was. I was done. And one of these nights, or that afternoon, I was actually working out in the yard on a tree house that I was building for my kids. And when I got done, I went and sat on my front porch. And as I'm sitting there right behind the tree house, this is an hour before the sun goes down, a tree starts going like this. Like, the tree's about this big around, and it's just shaking like crazy. And I can't see the bottom 10 feet of the tree because it's across my yard and then down the hill. It's technically on my neighbor's yard, or like right on the property line. So I jump up and look, and I don't see anything, and I run out there. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. And I'm like, holy crap, what was that? So I'm like, all right, well, somebody's obviously out here. So tonight I'm definitely doing my little patrol. So it gets dark. I get all my gear together. I got a pistol, a flashlight. By this time, I had already bought a cheap thermal. I open to go outside, and my dogs go straight to my front door, same side of the house. So I'm like, all right, they're here. So I'll run out across the yard. I go out of my gate, and there's a trail that separates my house or my property from my neighbor's property. And I walked up to the top of the trail, and there's this big boulder out there right next to the trail. And right when I got to that boulder, rocks started falling all around me. And it was like somebody just took a handful of rocks and threw them up in the air, and none of them hit me. But it was 360 degrees, just rocks just falling all around me. And in my head, I got them, and it's human. They're throwing rocks. So it's obviously human. And I got kind of spooked, and I stood there, or I backed up a little bit, actually. And then I kind of got mad because I backed up. And I'm like, well, this is my chance to figure out what this is. So I start going again, and keep in mind, I'm shining with my flashlight. I got a really bright flashlight everywhere. I got my pistol out, and I make it to that rock again, and the same thing happens. Rocks start hitting all around me. Just like somebody threw them up in the air, and they just landed perfectly all around me. And I yelled, if you hit me with a rock, I'm going to shoot you. And I stood there. Yeah, I was done, at this point. I stood there for a minute. I didn't hear much. I heard a couple of little cracks or whatever. I kept going. I went down that trail. I'm looking around everywhere. I'm out there spinning around my flashlight, my pistol. I go into the woods a little bit down this little trail. I don't see anything, and I don't hear much of anything. I make my way back up to the top of that trail up there where that boulder is. And there's across the trail from that big boulder, on the other side, on the wood line, there's another boulder. It's probably 3 feet wide by 3 feet tall. And I'm about 30 feet away from this boulder, and I'm looking over in my neighbor's property for, I'm using a thermal, so I'm looking for heat. And I think I get something, but it was one of those TK scouts. So it wasn't that great, but I did see movement over back behind their property. And as I'm sitting there looking through the thermal, from my right, where this boulder is, I get growled at. And it goes, whoa. And right then and right there, that was it. My life pretty much changed from then on out. I knew as soon as I heard that growl, I knew what it was. Like I knew instantly, all right, these things must be real, Now, it would take longer for me to really, about that time, I was probably about 90% certain, I was so scared I couldn't even move. All I could do was move my head just enough to look in that direction. And I expected contact. Like I thought I was about to get hit. This thing was about to jump on me or hit me or something. That's what it felt like was about to happen. By this time, I'd already holstered my pistol. And I didn't even think about pulling my pistol. The fact that it got that close to me when I knew I was out there looking for something, and then to hear that growl, like I knew I was lunch. It's like being covered in blood in the ocean with a great white shark.
Yeah.
You might as well go ahead and try to pet it, because it's over with.
Yeah.
And I stood there for just a couple minutes, and my exact words were, all right, dude, I get it. Like I knew I had overstepped. I knew it was some kind of beast. It must be Sasquatch. And I backed up. From that day forward, I dove in head first. It would be a year after that, I would actually have a sighting on my property. And it's one of the most boring sightings in the world. It basically at night, it walked straight across my driveway. And my neighbor's house kind of sits in front of me and to the right. And when it's lit up, they got all their porch lights on. It's like looking at a movie screen. So this thing's, I'm sitting on my front porch and it walks across my driveway and it's, you know, right in front of my neighbor's house. So I see the whole thing from like the ankles up. And I see the right side of it, this full body silhouette. His chin stuck out like ridiculous, almost cartoon, the underbite to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it had real big hair, like 1980s or rock band hair, you know?
Yeah.
Captain Joe loves that analogy because he's into wrestling, but that's what it looked like, you know? And I stood up, and it's, I think I measured it to be about 65 feet away, is how far away it was. But I stood up, and when I stood up, it went from being sideways to turning straight at me. And it was every bit of 4 feet wide. And what was weird is as it walked, you know, initially I see it from the side. And his legs, it was so weird. His legs kept going in the same direction, but his upper body is what just turned straight to me. And then I saw it long enough to where it, you know, it got out from in front of the house. So I couldn't see it anymore. So that was, you know, again, those things happen like a year apart. And I just started documenting everything that's happened around here. I've gotten all kinds of vocals, all kinds of interactions, a couple thermals, one really good thermal. The end of last year, it got to the point to where I could go to the very back of my property to this one specific spot at night and sit down in the dark with no lights. And for about 10 minutes, they would throw rocks, run around, break stuff, make all kinds of noises. And they did that. It was either 4 or 5 times. I documented every night that it happened, videotaped it. Of course, you can't see anything. It's that dark. But that's pretty much where I'm at now. I went from not knowing anything all the way to like the past 2 years have been mind blowing around here on my own property. But so in the beginning, after I had my sighting and, you know, I really got into this, I made a Facebook group and Captain Joe joined that group, and he's prior military. I'm prior military. He was Army Ranger sniper and actually wound up losing his leg over in Iraq. Bona fide war hero. It happened. He saved 3 civilians after an IED went off. The secondary IED went off and got him as he was trying to help these people. But like Happy said, he had a sighting when he got out of the military. He started doing contract work. And one of those things was he ran the Mammoth Sniper Challenge, which was, where was it at? Happy was at Fort Gordon?
Fort Gordon.
So he was at Fort Gordon.
Firing range at Fort Gordon.
Yeah. He's running this sniper competition with people from all different branches of military all over the world. He's out there looking through a spotting scope, and the Sasquatch walks right. It's the very last berm. Yeah. And it walks across the road, and he sees it through the spotting scope. So he had that experience happen, and he told me about it. It was actually like the first report that I ever did was his sighting. And then, you know, eventually after a little while, he's like, dude, why don't we do a podcast? I'm like, all right, good to go. But what I really wanted to do is to make a research group because I wanted to get out and get more evidence, you know. I still, even after my sighting here on my property, it was not good enough because I was very convinced, but it's a silhouette at night. Now, there's no way you're convinced me it was something else, but it still wasn't good enough. You know, it's not, I had to know 100%. So I basically just learned as much as I possibly could about the subject. Started going out with a guy named Mike Taylor. He's a professional adventure athlete. We started going up in North Georgia, checking a few spots out. And then me and Captain Joe, we start the podcast. Well, then Happy, he contacts Captain Joe and tells him the story. Now, and Happy knows this. I've told him 100 times. when Captain Joe first told me this story, my thought was, yeah, this guy's full of crap. There's no way that happened. There's just no way. I mean, number one, I'm a skeptic to begin with. And I'm super careful about the different aspects of these creatures that I buy into. You know, I want to see proof of what people are saying, you know. So honestly, I didn't believe him. And if y'all didn't catch that, how far away was your truck, Happy?
200 yards, maybe more. It was across
So when
a creek too. You know, that's the thing, is it was across a creek and I jumped the creek. But
see, that's the part right there that I don't know if everybody got that. He passed out under that tree.
Yeah.
And then woke up sitting up in the front seat of his truck. And he went across the creek too.
I wasn't wet.
Now,
Well, I wasn't wet.
I was fixing to say, was his pants leg wet?
Nope.
No, not my pants legs. The front of my pants were, but not
So,
my pants legs.
That begs the question, you know, and we'll get back to you, Johnny, here and say, how'd you get there?
I don't know.
I know how he got there.
You say it. I'm not saying
They carried his ass.
I'm not saying it at all.
All right, but wait a minute, though. You got something behind this tree that is samurai talking really loud, really close. You know,
I think there were two of them. I honestly think that there were two of them. Because
do you think one of them was a little bit more of the what's the correct word I'm looking for here? I'm not going to say passionate, but more. Oh, good grief! I can't even think of the way. These $20 words has been killing me here lately. There was one that thought more of you than the other one. They carried you back to the truck.
I'm guessing, you know, I guess one of them might have been a little froggier than the other one, if that's what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And you
I'm
don't
not gonna
remember.
speculate. I mean, man, I passed out. And I woke up back at my truck. You insert what you. I don't know. I mean, and that's one of the things that just scares the absolute crap out of me. Is I don't know. I mean, my rifle was there too.
In the truck?
Well, it was outside of the truck, but it was there.
Huh. Because I wouldn't think they would even bother fooling around with a gun to get it back to you.
Well, I mean, maybe my hands didn't unlock from around it.
You got a point.
I mean, I have no answers. I mean, that's one of the things that bother me. I mean, I can look from Johnny's point and something happened like that 30 years ago. But I mean, man, that's
amazing. I'm sorry about that, Johnny, but I was curious.
No. That's exactly where I was wanting you to go, because you know, he's got to be careful. He all he remembers is passing out, and then he woke up in his truck.
So
yeah.
I like to think that I walked back to my truck in a daze. You know, maybe they hit me with infrasound, and I was able to just automatically walk. But I mean, jump in the creek, I don't know.
No,
I mean,
he wasn't.
I'll take any answer that I can get.
That creek is 6 feet deep at the banks and about 9 feet across. He wasn't jumping that creek. There's nowhere to cross that creek without getting wet. There's no way to do it, at least without getting your boots wet.
Yeah,
but,
at least.
I mean, we don't know. But to me, when Captain Joe tells me the story and shows me the email, I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. You know, this is far out there. But then Joe's like, well, let's interview him. And I talked to Happy. I talked to him on the phone before we even interviewed him.
We talked a couple of times, actually.
Right. And after talking to him, I was like, man, I actually believe this guy. And then the light bulb went off. Wait a second. You don't hear, if this man's telling the truth, we've got something special here, because these creatures hardly ever lay their hands on people. You don't hear that many. You don't hear that many stories of people being touched by him. You know what I'm saying? And if they did carry him, that said to me, that says they probably watched him grow up out there, and for whether it was self-preservation or
Yeah.
they actually liked him and wanted to make sure that, who knows why they did it, but to me it was something kind of, it's special, something that sticks out that you don't hear a lot.
But I
So
did, yeah. I mean, I that's sounds as good as me. And being out there, I grew up going out there from a buddy of mine from teenage years on. So I mean, it's not like I said earlier, it's not like sneaking up on them. And the truck that I was driving wasn't exactly quiet at the time. So I mean, I guess that may have been it. They may have been familiar with me.
or they thought, oh crap, we screwed up
Yeah,
and we need to get this guy out of here because
somebody's gonna be looking for it.
we killed this guy, and now we gotta, I don't know if they know how to check a pulse. We don't know. We don't know
Yeah.
what was going on. But anyway, it stuck out to me, and we started talking. Hey man, let's go out there because this property's perfect. It's not only is about 300 acres. Not only is the property very rural itself, it's just surrounded by rural farmland as far as the eye can see for miles. So on paper, and the other aspect of this property is the fact that it's been in this family's land the land's been in this family's name since before America was America. The king actually gave them this land.
King's grant. It was originally bigger than 300 acres, but it was a grant from King George to my buddy's family.
Really?
So
it's never been built. It's only been farmed. I mean, it's been managed. It was a hobby farm for them. I mean, they lease it out to farmers. There was a fantastic bass pond down there for years. There's boar, there's turkey, there's ducks. Not to mention there's a dairy farm handy that, dairy cows die. They're quite, that's a huge source of it. I mean, it's just a cornucopia of food and shelter.
Yeah, I've never seen so many deer in my life since we started going out there. Just herds of deer. Everywhere we go out there, literally every 15 minutes, I jump a deer. Just about. So, I mean, it's just that there's, like you said, hogs, pigs everywhere.
It's kind of like a wildlife refuge.
It is. It's been managed forever for game.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna get to Jonny for a second. The jawline that you said you've seen on the one that was walking across the road in between you and your neighbor. I'm not going to say a whole lot, but then what I saw, and the best way I describe it is, have you ever seen Patrick Ewing, the basketball player?
Mm-hmm.
He has a strong jawline that sticks out toward the bottom, and that's the best way I know of how to describe. When I saw the side view of it, it was just such a strong jawline. I mean, it wasn't like it was ridiculous, way out here or nothing. It was more natural, but it was very, very pronounced and very, very strong. That's what got my curiosity about you. When you described that, it's sticking out so far. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it, and I have not heard anybody else describe it in that manner, that the jawline that sticks out, because most time people they're describing the frontal part of the face, not the side jaw. I thought that was for me, that helps. You know what I'm saying? And if you're looking for validation, But anyway,
I mean, it definitely stuck out a lot, and compared to, it's just so odd. It was just so big, and to be honest, it wasn't even that tall. I'd say it was only about 7 feet tall, maybe. But the width of this thing was just absolutely ridiculous. Like, it was, I mean, everything about it, especially just seeing the silhouette of it, just looked cartoonish because everything's so big. But so we decide, we're all right, let's put a team together. Let's go out there.
Yeah,
let's go check this spot out. And now Captain Joe, he's from that area, and he also has friends with a hunting cabin about 20 minutes from there, 25 minutes. So the plan was to go out. We were going to stay in Joe's hunting cabin at night, or that's where we were going to put our stuff. And then we're going to go You know what my main goal was? My main goal was go out there and just interview Happy where it happened. That's really all.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what
we wanted to
yep.
look for evidence, but that was my goal, was to go out there, look around, see if maybe they're still around. But I really just wanted to get video of Happy telling his story exactly where it happened. Well, guess what? That never happened. I never did get the video of him because when we got it was me, Captain Joe, Happy, Scott DeForest, and
Joey.
Joey. So there's 5 of us. We all meet up at Captain Joe's, get our niceties out of the way, hang out, eat, all that good stuff, and then we head over. First thing in the morning, we head over to this property. We get out of the vehicles. We all park. We walk through this small wood line, and we get out this entire property. I don't think you can see it. Yeah, you can kind of see it. This entire property, it's got a pipeline that runs right down the middle of it, a pipeline clearing, and then on each side there's woodline, and there is a creek that runs across that pipeline. Well, we come out around where Happy thinks this happened, right? He's looking for the exact spot. He's walking up and down the woodline. We're only there maybe 15 minutes. From the time we got out of the truck, he pointed some things out, said where we were going. We walked through that little woodline and got out there, and he's walking up and down the woodline. And Scott yells out, "Hey, I got a track." And at the exact same time he says, "Hey, I got a track," I'll look down and I've got a track right underneath my feet. And what it is, it's the grass gets pretty high out there, but it wasn't super high out there at the
It's been
time.
raining.
Yeah, it'd been raining a couple days beforehand. And there is a deer feeder out there, a solar powered deer feeder, real nice one. And these tracks they look like they're going away from the deer feeder. And they're super obvious. It's definitely where something's front of the foot hit, mushed in, like it's running, is basically what it looked like. And we followed these tracks all the way into the woodline. And I'm already kind of celebrating. I'm like, "Happy, dude. We already got tracks, man. This is great."
Yeah.
Never knowing how far this thing was going to go. So we all, Scott follows the tracks into the woodline, and what we're in is right there on the pipeline. There is a deer stand, and at one time there was 3 rows that were cut. There's one row in the middle that goes out for about 100 yards. One row on the left. It's like an arrow, but it's shooting lanes. Well, those shooting lanes had not been cut in a while, so it's all grown up with saplings. Not super thick, but just saplings, fine saplings. So we follow these shooting lanes out, kind of meander around, and I don't know who found it, but somebody found a bed. Was it you that found it?
I found it because I didn't know what the hell it was.
You describe it.
It was a donut of clear pine straw, pine thicket. So fresh fallen pine straw, and it was a donut of clear dirt that had been swept off with a pile of pine straw in the middle that looked like a bed. It was about 6 feet long, and Jonny laid down in it, and it fit him perfectly. I've never seen anything like it. And as we were walking around, we found an older one, but this one, it looked like it had been maintained. It looked like it had been raining, and it had been windy, and it looked like somebody had taken their hand and just cleared it all the way around up into the middle. And we still don't know what it is.
I've never heard of that.
That was
Craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It was like a perfect circle. It's like something just sat down right there in the pine straw and then drug everything to the middle. And then there was a crease from where something was laying down.
It was lying down in it, yeah.
So we found that. And I think it was the next day when we found the older one. There's one built
Yeah, it was the
just
day after.
like it. Right.
It wasn't
There's
there.
one built just like it, but it was older, and the
Oof.
rainwater. Apparently, what had happened is they were using that one, and it got flooded, and they
Mixed
made
it up.
another one. So we walk around, and I mean, this whole time is just super. I can't believe we found what we found. We found tracks. We found a
Right
bunch of
down to the
deer
back.
bones.
A skull.
Yeah,
All
deer
kinds.
skulls.
So
Any deer? Oh yeah, okay.
So yeah, we found deer. I mean, deer. You could tell something's out there feasting.
Yeah.
Obviously. So we go and eat supper after all this. We're like, all right, we're gonna come back out later in the night. So we go and eat some fried pork chops and the like. And Johnny, you wanna?
Yeah, we now the property owner's out there with us, and we go out. We go back to the same spot. I'm already ecstatic. We've got enough. I'm ready to call it a wrap. We're good to go. We got
Yeah,
exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah.
In my head, it was validation for happy.
Absolutely.
I knew that. I knew that he'd been living with us since he was whatever, 22, 19?
21, 22 years old.
Right, and hadn't been able to tell a soul. And it's a ridiculous story that I'm sure he's probably ashamed to tell people. And we're
pretty ridiculous.
And we're already finding, it's just like, all right, man, this is great. Can't get any better. Well, anyway, it does. All the other guys leave, and we hang out there. We build a fire. We all hang out for a little while. And there's one thing that has come up a lot during not only my personal research, but research out here at this property is coyote vocalizations. We were playing coyote vocals, and we were getting responses from coyotes themselves. The property owner leaves, Joe leaves, the other guy leaves. It's me, Happy, and Scott, and we've got a fire. We're probably 25 feet away from the wood line. Now, our vehicles are out in the middle of this pipeline. Mine's the closest to the woods, but there's no trees above it. It's too far out. So we're sitting around, we're telling stories. I've got a GoPro sitting on my vehicle recording just for audio. We're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden we hear like borderline canine yells, super loud and very, very close. Okay. But that's kind of all we thought they were. I'll go ahead and skip to the end of that. When I got home and played these vocalizations, there's 2 yells, and then there's 2, I go to my grave. They're Sasquatch vocalizations, and it's very close. But we don't realize that because I haven't had a chance to take it home to look at it yet. All we hear is what sounds like the
coyotes,
the canine part of it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 40 minutes later, we're like, all right, that's cool. 40 minutes later, we're sitting there, and I keep hearing like moving around and almost like a thud. I think my wife's looking for this chicken. I got
a yard bird in there.
Thought I was kidding, man. Let me put the chicken up. Y'all can still hear
yard
me.
bird. So
Yeah, we
Johnny,
can hear you.
Johnny
We're
was the
sitting
only
around.
truck that was there that night. So it's a brand new truck, by the way. He failed to mention that. It's a nice brand new truck that he has, and Scott and I rode with him, and he's parked it out away from the trees. He's being careful because it's a new truck, and we're sitting there yucking it up and having a good time. And we're all right, listen. And so Johnny, you can pick it up and go.
Well, I'm hearing something behind us, but it's not super loud. It's just like almost like there's just more bass to it. Like, I don't know if it was stepping or what it was. And I keep asking them, do y'all hear that? They're like, no, we don't hear anything. And it happens again. I'm like, y'all not hear that? And they're like, no. And right about that time, you hear whack. A rock hits my vehicle. And I'm like, y'all,
Oh,
y'all
right is on.
effing F-bomb this
My
way,
new truck.
F-bomb that way, you know. But I'm excited though, because something just threw a rock at my vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Um,
There's not a soul
and
around.
we're super excited, and this is, you know, we think they're within 50 feet of us, maybe something like that, in the wood line. I've got a thermal on a tripod, and I'm trying to like make my way over there and get it turned right, and we're acting like we don't want to freak out. You know, we don't want to mess anything up. We're just like, all right, man, this is cool, blah blah blah. And then we hear a grunt, and you can hear Scott on the audio go, "I heard that." And we're all like, "I heard that, I heard that." And all it does, it goes, "Ugh," like that. Well, then Happy reaches down because he's gotten a little impatient. He wants to see something. He reaches, "Hey, baby, I already got it." Yeah. So he reaches down to grab his flashlight and goes to turn it on. And right when he hits the button, I say, "Don't shine, don't shine." And he turns it off real quick. Well, we didn't realize it at the time. But again, when I got home and played the audio, as soon as he hits that flashlight button, you hear craziest sounding vocal. Like, it did not like when Happy turned that flashlight on at all. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much the end of that's our first trip out there.
And I'll say this while we were sitting there, I smelled, Bobby, you might know what this is living down there next to Mobile. Pluff mud. You guys know what pluff mud smells like? Sulfury mud. It was a sulfur smell in the air, but it was not strong. It must have come up through the swamp, is my guess. But it was a sulfury smell. It wasn't an unpleasant smell at all. It smelled like pluff mud.
Yeah. Yeah. How mad was you getting? You wasn't even getting mad that something was hitting your truck, was you?
You know, at first, honestly,
I could have got away with all kinds of stuff if I'd known that.
Probably could have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dude, I was so, and I can't, unfortunately, I can't play all the video because I'm cussing so much. I'm like, God dang it, yes, yes.
We tried out some new words.
Yeah. You know, I mean, it was more than I ever thought was going to happen, especially on our first night. You know?
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled
First time
that
I've
not
been
only
down there in 30 years.
right.
Yeah.
So
I could have got away with
down there. Something like that happened too. So
I could have got away with Key in his truck dating my ex-girlfriend. You know, you wouldn't have said nothing happy about it. Look here where it clawed.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when I got home, I wasn't so happy, but that night it was like, dude, I'll take another one. I would have been happy if they would have hit me in the head, you know, still having all that stuff happen.
Next day was Jay from State Farm, wasn't it?
yes, sir.
Right. Yeah.
We were looking for Jake.
Yeah. But we obviously super successful, and I got all that on video. We got audio, we got video, everything we found. We got the audio.
We figured out why we didn't find them, that we didn't see them on the thermal the next time we went out there.
Why was that?
There were ridges. Remember those push-up ridges in the woods that they were hiding behind? They're like berms where it had been planted, and they were 3 or 4 feet high, and they were perfect. You could come right up behind the berm. You couldn't see them. And the berms were 10 feet inside the wood line, 10, 12 feet inside the wood line.
Yeah,
they were close. In order for that GoPro to pick up the audios that much, the best one is the loud vocalization that we didn't realize what we had. But I mean, we got really impressive audio out there. But that
I'm learning.
You know, it was
Jonny. I'm learning.
What now?
I'm learning.
Oh yeah, man, you're you know, there's a couple barriers to entry with Sasquatch research, unfortunately, and that's time and equipment.
Yeah.
You have to be recording from the time you step in the woods until the time you leave. And that's not easy to do. You've got to have a bunch of backup batteries. You've got to, like, I use my phone and my GoPro. You got to be able to have extra memory. You know, we
Yep.
learned this
The hard
from the
way.
next story, the hard way. You're going to learn this. So anyway,
Right, before you get going, I'm gonna step out. You know what I'm doing.
okay.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Yep.
it's break time for me. Guys, I'll be right back. Waylon, you know what to do. Guys, I'll be right. I can hear, so you know
Yep.
all that's going on. But I do have
All right.
some more questions for you. You guys just keep
Sure.
on going. I'll be right back.
All right, Johnny.
All right. So we go out there how many more times? I can't ever remember.
All right. So the first time we went out, we had all that happen. The second
Right.
time we went out was probably 3 or 4 weeks later,
You know,
and then the third time was when everything went down.
right. And I've got to keep the date because I'm terrible at remembering, but it was April 12th, 2022
That's
is when
correct.
we were out there.
And
And
so
we first, me and Scott get out there. We get out there before everybody else. We get there probably before noon. We started on the opposite side of the pipeline from where we found the beds, the pine straw beds. You know, we hadn't really had a good chance to check out the other side yet. So him and I walk around for probably, I don't remember, maybe 3 hours.
then I get down there after
And
that.
we found, yeah, we actually found really good evidence over there, especially at the creek. He found a track, and then we also found right in the middle of the creek, there's a sandbar, and it looks like something took its hands and stuck it right down in the mud and just drug it back. We also found a structure, something that looks like a structure. It's people call it an asterisk, and right under that asterisk is a 10-point deer skull. So we're already like, hey man, cool, we're finding stuff. And then Captain Joe and Happy get out there, and we're in pretty much basically the same spot. It's in the middle of the day. We're in the middle of the pipeline. And since we've been there the whole time, there's a logging crew on the opposite side of the property. They've been cutting all day long. So it's pretty noisy out there. How long were you there, Happy? Were you there 2 hours?
I was there about 3 hours. We walked
Were you
around,
there?
went down in
Uh-huh.
the woods. I had to leave. I had work stuff going on, so I had to leave. And I left, and I got a phone call. I'll say I got a phone call probably an hour later.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, after Happy left, our vehicles are in the same spot again. Me and Captain Joe want to go check out those pine beds and see if they've changed, if they've kept up with them, or we can find anything else out there. Scott says, well, I'm just going to stay here. So he stays there at the little camp we got there at the middle of the pipeline. So me and Joe go. I have a rear-facing GoPro that I have attached to my backpack. And I had been recording all day long. I didn't have very much memory left. So what I would do, if I would find something, I would record it. But I wasn't recording the whole time that we were on this other side. And we went to the pine beds. We checked that out. We went to another place that we wanted to look out at. We were there for maybe about 45 minutes. And I just posted a video a couple days ago, 20 minutes before we have our sighting, because we're about to have some sightings. Me and Captain Joe are talking about how we don't think they're out there anymore. They probably went somewhere else. And with the timber cutting going on, there's no way in the world that they're out there. We've already convinced ourselves. We've already walked around all day long. Nothing's happened. Right. So, and I'm asking him, all right, well, you want to go back this way? Let's go ahead and go back, blah, blah, blah. So we start heading back towards our camp, back towards those shooting lanes that I told y'all about before. I'm walking. Captain Joe's about 60 feet behind me. I'm walking. For whatever reason, I stop dead in my tracks. And I turn and look to my right. And there is a Sasquatch standing there. It is 50 feet away from me, completely unobstructed, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, looking right at me. And it's got one hand up like this, and its head's down like this, and it's kind of frowning at me. And I stop and I look at it, and it's all black. It's solid black, except it's got a goatee that's white, and it's got like this crazy looking cowlick. It's, people call it a cone head, but what it looked like to me, it looked more like hair that kind of went up at a
Pushed
point.
up.
But it was about my size. We started calling it a juvenile after all this happened, only because it was only my size. It looked kind of scrawny, kind of skinny. If I would have to describe it, it was more like a swamp ape than what you would find up north, which is the more Neanderthal or Native American looking. This was definitely more monkey or ape looking. But I stopped, I looked dead at it. It looked at me, and it was just perfectly still, like this, looking at me. It was kind of hunched over a little bit. And I didn't have my phone in my hand. It was in my pocket. So the only thing I could think was I've got that GoPro on my back that's running. It's recording as we speak. So I turn around real quick and try to get it on the GoPro, and I dig my phone out, and I turn it on, and I turn back around, and I start recording. And I'm looking, and I say, Joe, I swear to God, I just saw one. So I run over to Joe, and I'm like, hey, man, I explain what happened. I'm trying to get that GoPro turned off because I think I've got the footage of a lifetime on this GoPro. And I'm like, dude, we got to get it turned off. I don't want anything to happen to it, blah, blah, blah. We think it's over with. I think the day's done. I'm shaking like a leaf. I'm super excited. I'm like, dude, I just want to go. I'm going to go over there. I'm describing it to him. I'm like, I want to go over there and try to see if I can find tracks that it left. But if it's still around, I don't want it to see me do it. Like, I didn't even know what to do. So I just start walking kind of that general direction where I saw it. And I'm making my way towards the creek, and I'm looking around, and I'm looking around. Now, before this, and this is how tunnel vision I was. After I saw it, and then I turned around to try to get it on my GoPro, and then I turned back around. In the video, the rear-facing GoPro video, you can hear very obvious braking noises and birds going nuts. So it basically went the opposite direction that I thought it went. It went back towards our camp, which I didn't expect it to do. But you could hear on that video, you could hear the obvious braking and stuff. And after I say, Joe, I just saw one. I didn't realize what he said at the time, but what he said is, I have something at my 1 o'clock here. Now, he hadn't seen it, but he was hearing all that braking and stuff. And then I ran over to him and got the GoPro turned off, and I went and looked, out in the opposite direction. Well, 6-8 minutes go by, and Joe yells. He didn't really yell, but he's loud enough. He's like, I hear him say, I see it, or something like that. And I'm like, what? Like, are you looking at it now? He's like, yeah, I just saw blah, blah, blah. I can't really hear him. I'm too far away. I'm probably 70, 80 feet away. So I make my way back towards him. And what he tells me is, there's a big dirt berm right there, right next to where these shooting lanes are. And as I'm walking the other direction like an idiot, going the complete wrong way, 6-7 minutes later, this thing walks in front of Joe behind that berm. He sees it from the waist up. So we come together, and I'm asking, where'd you see it? What happened? Blah, blah, blah. And he shows it to me. We're standing around looking. I'm celebrating. First thing I do is I call Scott, because he's back at the camp. I said, dude, me and Joe just saw one. It's coming your way. I get off the phone with him, kind of get ourselves together, and we're following in the direction we think it went. And we stop at the creek, And then we start hearing breaking noises again. This thing's and I even say it in the video, this thing's intentionally making noise
Yeah.
to bring us that direction, which blew my mind because we're going back towards our own camp. So we start following again. We come to a second creek. After I go over that creek, I look down and there's fingerprints. At first, I thought they were toe prints, but I put my fingers right in the mud right next to them, just as fresh as you. They were literally just made probably 3 minutes before, where it had gone down on all fours, and you could see the fingerprints right in the mud right there. And I'm recording that, and as we're talking, we hear more breaking up ahead. It's making more noise. So me and Joe keep following. We're looking around. I'm recording the whole time. We make our way out in the middle. We come out of the wood line in the middle of the field, and we're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. You look at Joe, he's on video. His eyes are like this big around. I tell him, dude, you look like you just got in a firefight. He's like, yeah, man, it just flanked us. What was it? The sightings themselves were, don't get me wrong, super awesome. But the actions that it took to draw us out of that area,
The intent.
Yes, the intent behind what it was doing. I never really understood what the word surreal meant until that moment in time. It was just unbelievable that it had intentionally, because after I saw it, it could have just ran off and we never would have known it. But it intentionally hung around and then walked right in front of Joe. And then when we weren't moving fast enough, it starts breaking stuff. It knew that we would follow it. Well, after we get out in that pipeline and we're talking and celebrating, Scott yells something, and we can't hear him. We get closer, and what Scott saw, he's standing on the back of his truck with binoculars, and he sees the Sasquatch come out on all fours doing what's known as the spider crawl, where its elbows are out like this and its legs are cocked out. Looks super weird. Well, it walks out of the wood line. It does a button hook, goes back into the wood line, and only about 10, 15 yards away, me and Joe come walking out. So it had stayed ahead of us this whole time, like just ahead of us, until it got us back into the pipeline. And we're all just like, our minds are blown. First thing I do is call Happy and say, Happy, you are not crazy, dude. All three of us just saw it. We just saw it.
Washington, Georgia.
We did it, and that was, thank God Joe was there with me. Because I can tell you right now, even though I looked that thing dead in its eyes, still to this day, it's hard for me to believe that it just walked right out in front of us, There was definitely intent there. Now, you would think that would be good enough and that would be the end of the story.
That's right.
I get off the phone with Happy. We're standing around, and I went and I set my thermal camera up facing where we came out of the wood line at, and I've got it recording. I think it was maybe 40 minutes later. We're standing around. I'm recharging stuff. People's making phone calls, doing whatever, talking about it, just going nuts. And I still to this day can't remember who yelled it, but either Scott or Joe said, "There's another one." And now see, it's very telling that I think it was Scott that yelled it. Like, I knew the sound in his voice. It was just, and we all turned around, and there is a bigger one, a full-grown one, probably a male, running across the field on all fours, maybe not even 100 yards away. It runs across the pipeline where we had came out earlier. It runs across the pipeline on all fours. It hits the other wood line, turns right, and runs down that wood line. And then when it hits the creek, it turns left and goes in there. And I take off running after it. And I'm trying to dig my phone out. I'm filming. It's ridiculous. But but this it was much bigger than the other one, but it was the same exact color. It was black. A very strange black. To me, it didn't look like a natural black. When people talk about how it kind of soaks up light, they don't mean that in a paranormal way, because I've seen it. It's just that color of black is just very odd, like a living shadow type. That's the way it looked when it was in the woods. And it was slightly different when it was out in the open, but it was still that same color. There's no way to know how tall it was because it was on fours. And believe it or not, the best way for me to describe how this thing ran was like when a bullfrog jumps, how it gets his legs together and then springs out like this, and then its legs come back together. That's what it did across that field. And there was a lot of water in that field. So it wasn't like a direct beeline. It was going like straight, and then it would turn this way and land, and then turn like this and turn, but it was still making its way all across that pipeline. And that was even crazier to see something that size. And it wasn't getting like super high off the ground. It was only maybe 2 feet off the ground. That's what it looked like. But it would fully extend like Superman position. And then its legs and feet would come out together and spring out again. And it did that the whole way. And I'd say it probably ran about as fast as a dog, going across the field like that. It looked slower, but it covered a lot of ground. So yeah, that was the end. What do you say after that? There's nothing left. I mean, I know there's people that go their whole lives doing this. Like literally, there's researchers that have done this their whole lives and they don't ever see one. And for us to see 2 of them like that, I think what happened is I think we were in their bedding area. Obviously, those beds were out there. I'm only guessing, but they specifically wanted us out of that area. They were drawing us.
Yeah.
The bigger one, the male. I'm calling it a male just because of how big it was. There was absolutely no reason for it to run across that field like that, right in front of us. If it waited another 30 minutes, it would have been too dark, and it could have crossed. It could have stayed in the creek and crossed. It could have waited 45 minutes and crossed 100 yards away from us. We never would have known. These things intentionally did what they did that day. And the most important thing, now obviously, all doubts are gone after you have experiences like that. But the most important thing that I learned from that is their intellect. This wasn't, even though it looked very monkey-like in the face, this was not the actions of just a basic primate. Now, I'm not saying they're humans, but they are smart enough to where they are self-aware. From what I've seen over the years, they are self-aware. They know our physical capabilities. They know their physical capabilities, and they have a very good understanding of the difference. Because you have something that can, when it wants to, stay close to humans, interact, throw things, break things, watch us without us seeing it. That takes confidence. That type of confidence, I think, can only come from a higher level of intellect. So that we learned a whole lot that day. I mean, it wasn't just the sightings. It was the whole situation was just mind blowing. And you want to talk about vindication for Happy. It was,
Absolutely.
it was,
After that,
dude, I was happy when we found those tracks on that first day. I was like, yeah, Happy was telling the truth.
yeah,
And then you fast forward 3 more trips and we see 2 of them on the
yeah,
same day. Uh, it doesn't get any better than that, you know. And we've
Right.
been out there. If it wasn't, it's 3 hours and 20 minutes from my house. If it wasn't so far away, I'd live out there if I could,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, it's and we did. Now, I did not get it on video from the initial sighting, but when me and Joe came back together and we were walking after it's making noises, um, we didn't realize it, but it was only 40 feet away from us at the time. And I have a little bit of video to where you can, it's poking its head around a tree and it like goes back down. And as we get closer, um, it's back down in the wood line at the base of a tree. And I've got one good screenshot. And now we didn't realize this till I got home and went through the video. And the only way I found it is because I knew it had that white goatee and then it had that
Cowlick.
cowlick looking thing on the top. And I knew it was black. But by changing all the the brightness and the all that other stuff on the photos, I mean that's what we saw. It's the Sasquatch that I saw with my own eyes. It's only one good screenshot, but it is his face. And you can even see it almost looks like it's got dreads on the side of it. It's like thick looking hair on one side. We almost completely blew that, and that's why I posted that video the other day of me and Joe. We had literally talked ourselves out of them being there at all while we're there because we hadn't had activity like that was our 4th trip. So like the 2nd and the 3rd and then half the first day. Now we still found some evidence. We thought they were gone. We thought either we scared them out or maybe the
logging
guys,
The logging.
the logging guys scared them out. We were done. We never thought that something like that would happen. But I've been back several times. I had one other time where my vehicle was slapped right after me and Hank were out there, and I was sleeping in the passenger side. He went to sleep. I was just about dozed off, and I hear whack right on my driver's side door. I turned my camera on, looked around, didn't see anything. Get up the next morning, I tell Hank, like, dude, something slapped the side of my vehicle. He's looking around and he finds a handprint at the very bottom of my door. It's like clay handprint. And we've got a couple more vocals, but we have not had anything like the throwing or anything else since those days, So
You want to
but there's
touch on? Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say you want to touch on what we found at the cabin with
Before he
the
does that,
dogs.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, before he does that, I want something to Happy.
Yes,
Kind of
sir.
scoot out of the picture just a little bit, kind of like this right here.
Can you
All
see
right,
it?
you see that? See that, guys? Now, Happy, tell them what's that a picture of.
That's the gas line. That's looking down at where all of this happened.
Yeah.
That's
Is
the
that
gas
what?
line right there at sunset?
Now, has Johnny talked? Did you say anything about his sighting there?
That's where
Yeah.
where we all had everything. This
Okay,
is
so
what we're
you was
talking
there
about.
when that juvenile and all that was going on?
No, I left. I was
I
there.
thought so.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, he had left.
And then I had to leave to drive back to Atlanta because it is 3 hours. But this was taken on a different trip. But this is where it all happened.
Okay. Now, do me a favor, Johnny.
Yes, sir.
I was outside. What was that juvenile doing when you first saw it? You said its hand was raised up.
It was kind of standing like this,
Okay.
like with one arm up, one arm down, and it had his head bent like this.
Yeah.
And he literally looked like he was frowning at me. It was like a scowl like this. And I could tell it had like gray skin because I could see this part of the hand.
Yeah.
And then like the bottom part of its face, it was a lighter gray, and then it had a white goatee. Now, when we say juvenile,
We're talking smaller in
for all
stature.
for
He was just smaller in
right,
stature.
for
Yeah.
all I know, it was a female, but I couldn't. The thing's so black, like
Yeah.
I couldn't see any definition, like in the chest,
Hmm.
and I didn't see any sex organs, anything like that.
Yeah.
But that white goatee stuck out like crazy, stuck out like a thumb, or sore thumb. But
You know
that's
you
pretty
got
much
in
how I
between them, though.
understand it, just like that.
You do realize you
What
got in
now?
between them.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's why that they was leading you away from something or somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Either a juvenile that was out there,
yeah,
or
Maybe
it could have been a female, like you was talking about. And they was leading you away, no
yeah.
doubt.
That's exactly what happened. There was no, and at the beginning, after it all happened, we thought that, all right, well, it just got distracted because of the cutting that had been going on earlier,
Yeah,
the logging, but that was done with. And I've watched the rear facing GoPro video 100 times. Me and Joe are talking loud the whole time,
yeah,
breaking stuff, coughing. Right before it happens, leading all the way up to it, we're having a conversation from 50 feet away. So there's no way that you're going to convince me that I snuck up on this thing. It
mm-mm.
intentionally, in fact, right before this happens, which really ticks me off, is I'm walking away from Joe and I do a 360, not intentionally, but I just go this way and turn my back and come the other way. So that camera gets it gets 360 degrees, maybe 10 seconds before the sighting. Where it was, I don't know. I don't know. There's a creek. There's like two creeks over there. It could have been down in that creek. But we did not, when it walked up, I didn't hear a thing. The only reason I didn't even see anything, all I could think of is maybe it was just instinct that I don't even know why I turned and looked at it. But I stopped dead in my tracks and turned and looked right at it. And it was there. So I think you're right, 100%. I think they intentionally were trying to lead us out of there for whatever reason.
It could. And it's just guessing. You know that. You know all of it is
Right.
pretty much. But
Absolutely.
Oh,
we
yeah.
get so much
Plausible.
possible stuff. 5 o'clock is, I feel like, is their awakening time. They're getting ready to go
Mhm.
out. You know what I'm saying? Because it's fixing to be dark.
Mhm.
And I think they got caught. You got caught right in the middle of them. And the one that you
Yeah.
seen first, they wanted to get you away from that one. And that's when they started making all that noise. I will tell you something. Now, that spider crawl is very interesting to me because I've heard about it, never seen it. I'm going to be honest
Right.
with you. And it's kind of amazing to me that something that big, you would be able to run. But from what I'm understanding, they actually can run faster on that spider walk, they call it, or spider crawl, whatever you want to call it. They can actually move faster doing that than they can on doing bipedal. Is that right?
Well, I think I don't know. There's no way to know exactly, but I mean, it would have to be very close. I think that the spider crawl and the fact that I think they spend a lot more time on all fours than people think. I also think that's part of the reason why it's so hard to find tracks because you're looking for just a flat footprint
Yeah,
out there.
exactly.
But these things aren't just running around on bare feet straight in a line. That's not what these things are doing. They spend a lot of time down real low. And if they can do this spider crawl thing, I mean, that's super hard to track. I think it has a lot to do with why it seems like they can disappear. Something that big with that color that blends in that well that can stay that low. Your people aren't expecting that. They expect that it went behind a bush or a tree. I should see the same upright walking big thing I just saw
Yeah.
behind that tree again. Meanwhile, it's dropped down on all fours and just scooted off. So it makes the more we learned a lot from that day, and the more and more experiences we have, the more you realize that, I think I believe the Patterson film.
Yeah.
I think Patty's as real as can be, but I also think that's what people have in their head when they think about Sasquatch. Just that upright walking, slow moving, lumbering Patty. That's not what I've dealt with all these all these years. We're dealing with I call them ghost monkeys. It's because it's impossible to catch up to half the time, you know. So I think that has a lot to do with why they're able to stay hidden, you know.
Do you think with them going down on all fours and doing that kind of a crawl is one reason why we just don't all absolutely have what I call uh, trails? I mean, I've heard other people talking. Well, we've got a trail walk here or something like that, like it's a worn down area. I don't see that because it looks like to me you would find more footprints that way in such a trail. If they use all fours like that, that would just about take away that trail. You know what I'm saying? They won't be so
Yes,
matted down,
exactly.
so worn out. So that's kind of
Well, when we had Richard and them down there and Bobby White, they came out a couple of weeks ago, and I told them, I said, it's shocking that, I mean, hell, we've got evidence. We know they've been here for over 30 years. We've seen two of them. Happy's had his experiences, but we hardly ever find any tracks, and we haven't found any good ones. Like we have yet to find a castable track out there, but we know they're living there, and there's a ton of sand around that. A bunch of sandbars, a really nice fine sand on the banks that stretch out.
But it's
You would
fall
think
levels
it
and
would
all over
be,
the place.
yeah. So I think that has a lot to do with them going down on all fours, and I think something that's as smart to intentionally do the things that we witness it do, and like I said before, stay close to humans without being seen. It might very well be intentionally trying to not leave tracks. You know,
yeah.
Now maybe every once in a while it gets in a hurry or whatever, but I don't see why, if they're that smart, maybe they know to not leave tracks. Again, just a guess. Like you said before, a lot of this is guessing. But I know they're a lot smarter. That was all. It's very shocking to me that they wound up being a lot smarter than I thought they were. I thought I was looking for a monkey for like 3 years.
Yeah. You didn't think it
But
was so intelligent that it knew how to get around you and uh,
right,
Flank.
flanking the military move, I call it. You got one
right.
over here whooping and hollering while the other two are coming around your sides. Yeah,
Hmm.
they're a whole lot smarter than what we give them credit for. But then again, I feel like they've got a curiosity nature about them that they end up slipping up every once in a while. I don't think
Yeah,
we just catch them off guard all the time. You might caught them off guard, considering the time and the position you was at that particular time. That's what caught them off guard, I believe. But I don't. It's just kind of like a coincidence, happenstance, whatever you want to call it, that you have to be in the right place, right time,
Mhm.
right.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and that's just my thoughts. That
yeah,
they were getting ready to move. There you were. They seen you. They led you out. And they do that kind of stuff. They get close to humans all the time, seem like to me, but they're
right.
never spotted. They say they get closer to the cities that I'm kind of wondering, yeah, right. But then again, you know, it could very
Well,
well be.
they're not. You never hear any reports of them in the city. That's one of the things that detractors talk about all the time. But here's the reality, and also it goes with the whole interdimensional and the paranormal aspect. If they were interdimensional or paranormal, why are they not showing up in LA? Why are they
Yep.
not showing up in downtown Atlanta? Why would they only, something with those type of abilities? It would seem like they would have the ability to go wherever they want and do this stuff. But you're not hearing that. It's semi-rural to rural
Mhm.
to vast wilderness areas.
Mhm.
So
Well, I'm hearing stories sometimes of edge of the wood type stuff. You know what I'm
oh yeah,
saying?
well that's actually what my property, which was a lot very surprising to me, is I'm in a semi-rural area, but I'm right on the edge of I don't even know what it is. I think this side of it's 20,000-acre wildlife management area that goes into a lot more rural areas as you go north and west. But I was surprised when I started learning about these things that they were this close. That they were, like you were saying before. I think they're just
Yeah,
they're curious.
yeah, you would think they would be deep, deep into the woods where they can never
Yeah,
be found in the swamps, and you know,
yeah,
with your scary stories of you found an alligator 12 foot in a tree, we gutted and head took off. That's the kind of stories you would think you would hear, but no,
yeah,
they're very close to our society, I'm gonna say, than we ever thought they would be. They're not just
yeah.
out there in the mountains of Pacific and that kind of stuff. You would think something this big. I mean, it's going to be buried, eating whatever it wants to, but no, it gets curious. It gets close to us.
Yeah.
All right, happy.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, Johnny, you want to talk about the dog skulls that we found there during the first trip?
Oh yeah, real real quick. It ended up. So Captain Joe, he had some activity on that property with the cabin on it. It was he had a deer feeder out there that got absolutely destroyed. There was a crew out there that was cutting. I think they were cutting. He's got a power line out there.
They were cutting
Or is
timber.
it a
They were
gas line?
trimming that easement.
Yeah, yeah. Well, their equipment got destroyed. One of Captain Joe's cameras wound up like 600 yards in the swamp. Stuff like that was going on. And then one of the times he went out there, there was a dead Rottweiler across the trail that he had cut. And he sent us pictures of it. And this was several months, maybe 5 months before we actually went out there that he sent us this picture. Well, when we first got there, there was a dead Rottweiler on the side of this fence on this
on the
property.
road into the cabin, right there where you
Yeah.
couldn't miss it.
Looked like it just died that day.
Yeah.
Well, we saw that. We had all the stuff happen over at Happy. We got so involved over there that everybody left before we really started looking around Joe's. So Joe's like, "Hey, well, before you leave, let me show you where all this stuff's been happening out around here. See what you think." So we go out there, and I walk up and I find another dead dog skull or skeleton. I'm like, "Joe, is this that dog that you sent me pictures of?" He's like, "No, dude, that one's over here." So I'll walk over and is there the older one that he sent before. We get to looking around out there. I can't remember how many it was.
Over 20.
27 or 24 dead dogs.
Canines.
That were dead canines. Now, we didn't do tests to find out if they were all coyotes. We do know some of them, at least two of them, were domesticated dogs. Did not have bullet holes in them. And they were at various stages of decomposition. Some of them looked like they were brought in, that had been dead for a long time, sitting out in the woods, and they had been brought in. But they were all encircled his hunting blind. And this had all happened in 5 months. He was out there doing work. He hadn't been out there since. We show up, and now his hunting blind, after it all being destroyed before, is now surrounded by dead canine bodies. And that was like, dude, I don't know what's going on out here, but that was and I got all that on video. I think it's from the happy place to the valley of death is what we called it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the video it's all the video from that very first trip that we were out there. And that's included. But yeah, man,
it's just crazy.
Those are the highlights.
That is crazy stuff. All right. Well, before we get out of here, guys, Bobby, you got anything you want to say to the guys? Have you enjoyed it?
Thanks for joining us, Bobby.
Yeah.
Okay. Whaley, what do you got? Are you
I had
muted?
to get off mute.
He looks like he's.
Of course.
You got anything for the guys?
Well, I will say one thing
No.
before we leave, and Icebox knows where my location is, one of the locations where I live at, and He can tell you all of my experiences happen right in town. I'm talking. I'm sitting right in town. I'm 1 mile from everything.
Yeah, no doubt
1 mile.
about town, but there's a difference between a town and a city.
Yep, big time.
And,
Concrete.
Are you like
towns,
how
you know,
far
you
away
got
are you from
dumpsters
the
around towns? You got fast food places and food sources around towns that are closer to the woods. Whereas in a city, you know, in a big city, one of the reasons I live in Decatur, Georgia, is because I know it's not going to want to be walking up the creek here at Shoal Creek towards my house.
Yeah.
And we've got coyotes and we've got turkeys, but we don't have boogers. But I hear you. And that's, you know, Waylon, where you live, I'm kind of familiar. We talked about that and all that, and it is rural and the town in the country just butt up against each other like that. There's a very small buffer area between the two, and I think they're opportunists as far as that. There's a lot more food around town.
I got a Publix 5 miles down the road from me. I got 2 schools 2 miles down the road, a park. 6 gas stations within 6 miles of here. You know, I'm not way out in the middle of nowhere. Now, the backside of me is, you know, it's got that management area. But, you know, like I said before, I didn't expect that when I started doing this years ago. I did not expect them to be that close, you know, like you're talking about, Waylon.
Okay. All right. Guys, I'm going to tell you what this. Go ahead, Waylon.
I said they let me know a lot of times when they slap the side of your house and it sounds like a stick of dynamite went off. Yeah, they there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You can levitate.
They peck on your windows too, don't they, Waylon?
So I couldn't stand that.
Put chick magnet or something. I don't know what it is.
It's the aftershave, my friend.
I wish the icebox had those they put on my house where you could show y'all. Next time we'll post them on the website here where you can see the handprints they put on the side of my house.
Yeah, I'd like to see those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, y'all keep talking and I can take care of that. Go ahead. Yep, I can do it.
Yeah, y'all go ahead and look at them and give me your opinion on what you think that is when he pulls them up, and we'll see.
Okay.
We know what everybody else has told us, and I know what I know. We'll see what y'all think.
All right, there's one. It's coming up. There you are.
That.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a handprint.
Looks like a handprint.
That's a handprint. Yeah.
That's it.
Hell, that looks like my house. You got the same siding I do.
Yeah, that's a handprint, man. There's no doubt about that.
That's it. Yeah.
What guys, what most of the time that draws my attention is the bottom. Let's see, you got the top shingle, and then you got the next one where you see the fingers, and that next one down there. That looks like to me, and this is just my opinion, okay? It looks like the underside here.
Like that right there.
Yeah. That's what it looks like to me.
It looks like right there where he hit it with his hand like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Were you home when he did that one?
Yeah, he was.
Damn right I was home.
Yeah, he keeps
Man.
He's locked up.
Man, please.
Yep. I guarantee you he didn't go running to the door who's out there. I know he didn't do that.
You weren't chasing anybody out of your yard that night, were you?
And the piano part about it is, and I'll end it here so we can end the show, is I've got cameras everywhere and we never got a picture of a damn thing. Nothing.
Nope.
I feel you on that, man.
I hear that. I mean, Johnny's got cameras all over the place. He can't get the thing.
I've been trying for years.
I don't see how it can do it. I really don't. But it's there. You know what I'm saying?
They're doing it.
But it's there.
Yeah.
Indeed.
They're doing it.
Yep. All right, guys. We're going to get out of here. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I really have.
Well, thank you for having us
I
on.
just want to leave y'all with one party thought. Go Dogs.
I think I can wipe him out real quick. I can edit this show.
Thank y'all for having us on, fellas.
Everything went great till then.
Yeah, we enjoyed you, Happy. We really did. We enjoyed you. Sure did. What else was I going to tell you guys? But anyways, I thank y'all very much. We had
Thank
a
you.
good
Yeah,
time.
man.
Guys,
Thanks for
enjoy it.
having us all.
Try to
No,
keep them out
no.
of trouble, man.
No. I ain't gonna do that. Guys, it was great. We're gonna get out of here. Why you got anything else, bud?
I'm good.
Cheers,
Thank
guys.
y'all, gentlemen, for coming on tonight. Sorry
Yeah, man. It's good to
we
meet
had
both
that
of y'all, Waylon and Bobby.
Yep.
y'all here. We hope you come.
Same here.
Hope y-
All right, guys, if y'all don't mind sticking around just a
hope y'all
little bit longer,
No,
you know what I'm saying? Let me get off the show.
sure.
And guys, I will apologize for these guys, for myself, that I'm the one that messed up the beginning of the show, and I'm proud y'all found us. And I know it says Let's Talk Football, but this is Sasquatch Encounter Brigade. Let me put that up there one more time if I can find it real quick. Let's see, right there we are. Just so you know where to find these guys, find them on YouTube,
see it.
Sasquatch Encounter Brigade. It is really who's all in your team now, Johnny?
Me, Happy, Captain
Captain Joe.
Joe, Kaylee, Angie Williamson, Scott DeForest, Hank Rosser, and Lloyd Urick.
Lord, you're okay. I wanted them guys to be mentioned so that when they watch this show, to tell them that we missed them. We would love to have had them. I wish we could have had them on tonight. It would have been great. But anyways, we're out of here, guys. Thank y'all very much. Johnny, don't go nowhere. I want to talk to you two
All
guys.
right.
All right,
All right.
guys. Y'all have a good week. We'll see y'all
Y'all have a
next
good
time.
one.